welcome back to my channel. So today I'm back with a wrap up of what I've read through January and February. I would have done a January one separately, but I didn't start making videos until this month. So far this year, I've read 14 books. I do have a 23 in 2023 challenge, and I've only got 9 left. So that's not too bad, to be honest with you. Let's just get into the video. I'll tell you what books I've read and what I thought of them. So to start off, I read You Had Me at Hello by Mary McFarlane. This book has been around for a very long time. I think this was published in 2012. Yeah, it was published in 2012. I've had this book for probably like at least 5 years, but probably longer. And it turns out I actually own it on the iBook store on my phone as well. But I read the physical one. This one I actually technically started in December. And it took me until the 17th of January to finish it because it took me a while to get back into the habit of reading. But also I felt this one was a little bit slow to get into because, I don't know, I don't think I was like 100% vibing with it. I have rated it 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book, but I think the fact it was written in 2012 kind of shows, if that makes sense. Yeah, when I compare this and the next one to what I've read that was published in the last few years, there's like a very big difference in writing style. Obviously, it's different authors, but just from what I have read from this, the years around the time that this was published, it's all got a very similar vibe to it that I just don't vibe with anymore so much. But it was really good. Yeah, it took me a while to get into it, but once I was into it, I was hooked. I thought it was a good friends to lovers story. If like your friends to lovers, you want to be like estranged friends, not like best friends or like childhood friends, you know. It was a decent read. There is apparently a novella, I think, called After Hello that I'm tempted to try and read. I think I might just buy it on the iBook store if I do. But I don't know if I'm actually that bothered. So it's something I might read in the future, but I don't know. Okay, next one was of a similar vein. This one is 13 Weddings by Paige Toon. Again, I've had this one for probably like 5 years or so. I was trying to get through it because there's actually quite a lot of books that I own that I haven't read yet. And I was sort of trying to get through those, and then I started buying books, and I haven't read any of my older ones really since. Well, yeah, for February, I don't think I've read any of my older books. But January, I tried reading the books I already read. This one I liked more than the last one. This one I rated 3.5 stars. I think I was going to rate it 5, and then I was like, it's more of a 3.5. This one was a lot easier for me to get into. It took me 2 days to read it, from the 17th to the 19th of January. And I found, it was easy to get into, and I couldn't really put it down. It was very easy to read. It was easy to digest. The story was pretty easy to follow. And I did like who she ended up with at the end, because there is a little bit of a love triangle in this. And I was very happy with who she ended up with, because I thought that person deserved it. That's about all I have to say on that one. And the next 2 books I read are, they're not a series, or a duology, I suppose. So I read If I Stay and Where She Went. These 2 I've had for a very long time. I bought them both at the same time because they are quite like a small read. How many pages are each of these? I think they're like under 300. Yeah, this one has 260 pages, and I think If I Stay is about the same length. If anything, this one's probably shorter because like the back of this has an interview with, like literally the whole, from like here onwards, it's not even story. It might even be some from before then. Oh yeah. Okay, so literally the whole of this section of the book isn't even story. It's the acknowledgements, and then like the story behind the story, and then behind the music, and then I think there's an interview with Chloe Grace Moretz from the movie, and the main guy in the movie, I think it's him, Jamie Blackley, who plays Adam. So, hello. And we're back in focus. Yeah, so the whole... Why? Hello, I'm here. No? Do you want to, like, reconsider? She's back. We've got it. Okay. Yeah, so this book actually has, like, barely over 200 pages. So, they were easy reads. I think I read this one in one day on the 19th of January. And I read the sequel on the 20th and 21st. I rated both of these 4 stars. I had seen the movie years ago, and I loved the movie. So I think I bought both of these at the same time, a little while after, well, obviously after the movie came out, because this is the movie cover. But as far as like movie poster book covers go, I actually quite like this one because it looks like a book cover, and like they just go well together. Like it makes sense. I wish they made a movie out of this one, to be honest, because this one I think I like this one a little bit more, even though it technically took me a little bit longer to read. Yeah, I've made a note. I like this one more than the first book, and I love the ending. But in general, both of these books are just, they're heartbreaking. They are absolutely heartbreaking. And I love the characters. Adam is very lovable, and especially in this book, he's very like tortured. But very lovable, and you're rooting for him. You just want him to be okay, and you want them to be okay, and just, yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one more, just because to me it was, maybe because it was new, because I already knew the story of this one because I'd seen the movie. So the last one of January, technically I started this book on the 22nd of January and I finished it on the 1st of February. That one is Before I Fall. So I was clearly in I've seen the movie, let's read the book sort of mindset. So this one's by Lauren Oliver. I realised I didn't say, but If I Stay is written by Gail Forman. Just I realised I didn't say the author. So yeah, Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. This one I rated 3 stars. I found it quite hard to get into. It was a bit thicker than obviously the last 2, but it's still not like a particularly meaty book. Also the reason I keep looking to the side, I've got like notes on everything that I've read. So yeah. The one thing I really struggled with this one is I just did not like any of the characters. There was nothing likable about any of them. And I think that made it really hard to read. And like I say, I knew basically the whole movie. Like, I'd seen the movie, so I knew basically the whole plot. I'd kind of forgotten a little bit what happens at the very end. But for the most part, I knew exactly what happened. And I think, yeah, the main issue was just I did not like any of the characters. But as a story, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, for its time, quite like... I mean, essentially it's Groundhog Day, you know, but you're dead. Like, it's Happy Death Day, but not a horror. You know, like, it's just, there's so many things have now been made where it's like you're reliving the same day over and over and over and over again. But I feel like at the time this was published, because when was this? This was first published in 2010. So for its time, it was probably like a lot better. I was like, I liked it. I didn't love it, you know? So you would think, following that vein, I would maybe continue with books that I have seen the movie of, because I also have Me Before You by Jojo Moyes and Me After You. Is it called Me After You or just After You? I'm not sure. And I was really tempted to read those because I thought I might as well just get the 3 sort of books / series of books that I have seen the movie of and I want to read the book. But I had just at the time bought the flat share and I couldn't not read it because I had actually been it'd been on my radar for years, even though I wasn't into reading in that time. It just sounded really good and I loved the premise. So this book I rated 4 stars. I absolutely loved this book. I'd maybe even rated a 4.5. This one had been on my radar for a long time. I finally bought it and I thought, you know what, I just have to read it now. And I'll get to Me Before You at some point. But I also was feeling a little bit burnt out after Before I Fall. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to read something I'm really excited to read, which is this. I loved the characters on this book and I just really rooted for them. I thought that they were just so unique and I just thought they were so right for each other and they were just so like lovely to each other. I don't know. I just like Leon's girlfriend I hated and I was like, no, Tiffy is so much nicer. She's so much more understanding. Leon needs Tiffy. You know, the only thing I didn't like was probably how Leon's point of view was written. When I put this on Goodreads, I did have a little look at some of the reviews and a few people did say the same thing where they just didn't like how Leon's point of view was written. It was just the lack of pronouns. And like as a person, if you, whatever pronouns you want to use, if you don't want to use them at all, whatever, I don't care, you do you, that's fine. When it's writing, simple I pronouns, that's all I need. Like please, just give me an I. You know, like it was just, I'm not even 100% sure whereabouts in England he was meant to be from, because I think he's meant to be like northern, based off of like some of the things he said. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like a lot of the things was just am this, will this, like, and it's just, it did annoy me. And like halfway through the book, when I had really, really, really gotten into it, and I was just like, I could just gloss over it and I just ignored it. But I didn't like how Leon was written, just in terms of like how physically the prose of and the words, I didn't like how not how Leon, I can't speak. My brain's just completely went haywire there. What I mean is, I love how Leon as a person was written. I love his character. I hate how his point of view was written, because it just wasn't good English and I just didn't like it. And apparently a lot of people felt the same. So from the 6th to the 8th of February, I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was my first Emily Henry read. Obviously, I have not read in years. This one, what did I rate it? I rated it at 5 stars. I loved this. I genuinely, literally the only notes I put was amazing, sexy, loved the plot and the characters, and then in brackets, especially Charlie, and I love Heart. Charlie, I made my friend read this, like straight after I finished reading it. She started reading it, and she also rated it 5 stars. She loved it. And both of us could agree that Charlie was just a man like no other. He was the female gaze. Everything about Charlie, I loved. There was not a single flaw in that man. And he was too sexy for anyone's good. And there were many times where I'd be reading it and I'd be like, I just needed like to put it down, walk away, have it, and come back and continue, because he just said and did things. It was the things he said, the way he said things, his small actions that were just incredibly sexy, and I just loved him. But also I loved their dynamic and how they were with each other, and I just thought they were literally like the perfect match. I loved it. The next ones I've written on a little post-it note because I don't have the physical copies. So I had bought Get a Life Chloe Brown and Take a Hint Danny Brown on my phone, on the iBook store. So I read both of those. So I read Get a Life Chloe Brown from the 18th to the 11th of February and Take a Hint Danny Brown from the 12th to the 16th of February. And I loved them. And I was going to start Actor Eve Age Brown. I'm just editing this and I didn't realise my mistake as I said it. Usually if I say things wrong, I realise straight away. But no, I obviously mean Actor Age Eve Brown, not Actor Eve Age Brown. But I do find it quite funny, so that's why I've left it in there. But that is just one of the many examples of my brain just not working in the middle of speaking. Straight after, and I did start the first 2 chapters, and then for some reason the book just broke in the app. I undownloaded it and then I re-downloaded it and it wasn't working, and I was like, okay, great, lovely. I hate reading a series and not reading the full series in one go. Like if all the series is out and I have everything, I hate not being able to just read it in one go. I don't like breaking up a series by reading other books in between. I hate it, but I had no other choice because the book was not working, and I was literally a couple of days off starting my, like, it was the 18th I finished. No, it was the 16th I finished Take a Hint Danny Brown, and the 18th I was planning to do my 24-hour readathon. So I needed to read it, you know. But unfortunately, life had other plans. Get a Life Chloe Brown, I rated 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. Redford was, again, he was just a perfect specimen of man. He was amazing. I thought the story was really cute. I liked the recognition and how they'd written a character with fibromyalgia. It's a chronic illness, obviously, that you can't just see, and it's something a lot of people struggle with, especially probably since COVID. I myself have struggled with chronic fatigue since having COVID, and it's really quite a debilitating thing, and I just really appreciated that and how well that was portrayed. Obviously, I don't know what it's like to have fibromyalgia, because chronic fatigue is different, but fibromyalgia's, like, the fatigue part of it, like, it's one of the same, if you know what I mean. And I just thought it was nice to have a main character who struggled with a chronic illness, because that's really rare. A lot of people are just like, a lot of the time when you read a story, especially romance, main characters are just kind of, nothing's wrong, everything's perfect, they're perfect, and that's not real life. And people who have struggles and people who have chronic illnesses also have love stories. So I really enjoyed that. But also the smut. There was smut, it was 10 out of 10. It wasn't too much. It wasn't like it was 50 Shades of Grey, it's every page. But the smut that there was 10 out of 10. If there's one thing I want in a romance, it's smut. If there's one thing I want in a book, it's smut. Yeah, so on this I put red with love hearts on either side. And then at the very end I've also put red with love hearts on either side. So I clearly very much loved red. Take a Hint, Dani Brown, I rated 4.5 stars. I think there's nothing in particular that really made it not as good. I think story-wise, I think I just didn't enjoy it quite as much as the first one, but I still absolutely loved it. I thought Dani was really cool, like, she's a strong, independent, bisexual woman with shaved pink hair. I just thought she was amazing. And then Zaf was I love how he was this brooding, grumpy man, but just a complete hopeless romantic. I just thought he was adorable, and I loved him, and I loved their dynamic as well. So quite similar to how I really liked Charlie and Nora's characters and their dynamic in Book Lovers, I really enjoyed Zaf and Dani's dynamic in Take a Hint, Dani Brown, because she was very strong, very independent, and he was also he was just like, he took it, like, you know, like, she was just very much like sassy, and she knew her own mind, and he was just like, yeah, but here's it back to you, you know, like, it was just, yeah, I loved them. And like I say, the fact he was just like this brooding, burly, grumpy man, but like a secret romantic, I just loved that. Okay, next we're getting on to the territory of, I did a 24-hour reading challenge, and that'll be my previous video. The first book I read was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one I read because the friend who I actually got to read Book Lovers, we basically swapped books. I told her to read this, she told me to read this. She loves this book, and I have to say, she had stunning, words just leave my brain, you know. Stunning taste, that's what I'm trying to say. She had stunning taste. This one I have also rated 5 stars. I finished it in, I believe it was 6.5 hours that I read this one. My notes I've just put is perfection. And then that twist at the end sent me. Genuinely, you'll see my reaction in my previous video. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know what I was expecting to happen, because the whole time Evelyn's like, yeah, you're gonna want to kill me at the end of this. And I was like, what could she, even like 2 pages beforehand, I was thinking, what could she possibly like have done that is so bad? And then when you find out, you're just like, did not see that coming. But great twist, I really like that. And it's not a spoiler, but one thing I was a bit like, huh? It's just the fact they glazed over Evelyn's 14-year-old daughter having a threesome. It was just said, they literally ran in, dropped that bit of information, and left again. And it was like, I was like, okay, first of all, I understand why from what happened. Oh no, I don't understand why from what happened leading up to it, but I just don't think my brain works that way, where you just think, okay, I'm going through a hard thing. A threesome sounds like the best thing to get over it. You know, like, that's not where my brain goes. Threesome is not where my brain runs to when I'm going through a hard time. I was just like, oh, I'm concerned, and then you just glossed over it, and it's never mentioned again. It's not a thing. And I was just like, okay, that has confused me. But yeah, I absolutely Loved this. And if you'd like to know the answer to who was my favourite husband, the answer was the obvious. It's Harry. Okay, after that, I then read Verity, which I have rated 4 stars. Read on the same date. This one took me 5.5 hours. If this one, I enjoyed the plot twist. This one, it broke me because I wasn't expecting it. At the very end, it broke me a little bit, and I didn't know anyone who had read this until I went back to work, mentioned the fact I'd read it, and it turns out, because at work, they've created a book club, and at the time I didn't want to join it because I didn't really read, and I don't like to say in advance yes to plans. I don't like that commitment, so I just didn't bother. But it turns out in book club they had read it, and I was like, please everyone tell me what you thought. And most people think the same as I do. I'm not going to mention it in case anyone hasn't read it. Yeah, it did break me for about half an hour. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and I just wasn't ready for that kind of plot twist. I was very tired. A lot had gone on. The tea in both books, the drama in both books, a lot had gone on in my brain, and I just wasn't in the right headspace to deal with that plot twist. But I've come to terms with it. I have my own beliefs on if I believe the plot twist or not. But because it made me feel so many things, I rated it 4 stars. Okay, so I started this book on the evening of the 18th, but I finished it the next day on the 19th of this 24-hour challenge. I should preface, if you haven't seen that video, I did do the 24-hour challenge over 2 days, and I paused the timer when I went to sleep because, like I say, I have got issues with fatigue, and so I was like, I'm not going to make myself ill to do a video. Absolutely not. I still want to see how much I can read in 24 hours. I still want to read for 24 hours. But I am pausing that timer and I'm going to bed because if not, I would genuinely be ill. So, yeah, just as a preface for that video. But yeah, I read With His Kiss by Carrie Hope Fletcher. This one I picked up in the Waterstones half price sale in January. I've read Carrie's first book on the other side. For a second, I was like, what was it called again? What has happened? My hair is meant to be in a bun and it's clearly fallen out. We're just going to leave that. Yeah, I rated this one as 3 stars. I just felt a bit... It was alright. I didn't love the characters. I didn't really connect with them. I thought literally, my comment is, I wasn't blown away. I figured out it was probably a genetic thing early on. And I wasn't that fit on the main guy. I can't even remember his name, to be honest with you. Grayson is apparently his name, according to the blurb. Yeah, I wasn't that bothered by him. At first I thought he was kind of creepy. He was the kind of guy I would avoid at all costs. But this girl had a good feeling about him. So, I mean, sometimes when you have a good feeling about someone versus if you have a bad feeling about someone, what they do will be obviously taken a different way. And some things that would be creepy if you take them in a bad way aren't creepy. But I don't know. I found him very, a bit obsessive. Anyway, at first. When they got to know each other a bit more and he's like, okay, you're blowing hot and cold, you're kind of blowing me off here, I'm tapping out. I respected that and I liked him more because of that. But before that he gave me won't give up kind of creepy vibes. I don't know. But aside from that, I thought the plot was decent and it was really easy to read and to digest. So yeah, I think this one took me a little bit less than 5 hours to read because it was it's not that thick of a book. I think as I've gone through the challenge, the books got slightly shorter because the next one I did actually is even shorter still. It took me less time. This one took me, I think, just under 4 hours to read, or just about 4 hours, something like that, or just under 5. This took me less time than With His Kiss. This one is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. This one, again, I read on the 19th. It was the last book I read in this challenge. I rated it 3 stars. So I thought it was quite an accurate portrayal of someone really struggling with mental health issues. At first it seemed like the person just had really bad anxiety, and a girl can relate. But then it was very clear that it wasn't just anxiety she was feeling. She was very clearly depressed. Because it seems at first she's just obsessed with death because she's anxious about death, which isn't the same as being depressed, because being scared about death is very normal. A lot of people are scared of dying, and having an anxiety based around that is very understandable. But her obsession with death, as you get further into the book, it becomes a lot more clear that it's not necessarily a fear of her dying, but she's just obsessed with death because she doesn't quite... I think she's trying to wrap her head around feeling almost that she wants to die in a way, or like, I don't know. It's not so much necessarily from an anxiety standpoint, but you could tell definitely she's in like a depression pit, and she's really struggling to get out, and she just kind of starts throughout the story to get worse and worse, and you can see she's getting more and more manic as you're getting through the story. I found it was like, the story didn't jump about in terms of like timeline. It was just like, because there wasn't chapters, there was like parts, and it would like just jump from scene to scene with just like essentially like a few like lines in between, and then like you're in a completely different place, it's a different timeline or like whatever. So like it could be weeks away, like weeks later, days later. You don't actually like fully know. It doesn't tell you how far the story's jumped. It just suddenly jumps, or maybe it'll be like a memory or something like that. So that was like a little bit... It probably wouldn't have taken me as long to read it. I probably could have read it quicker, but because it was a little bit like, wait, where am I at now? I had to like keep going back and rereading bits. But I did enjoy it. Like I say, I thought it was a really good portrayal of someone struggling with mental health. But I'm just a bit like, I do know what the plot was. There was a plot, and I can say that with certainty. It's just, there wasn't a lot of plot. I think once you've read the book, you know what the plot was. As you're reading it, it's kind of hard to fathom. But it also, that does make sense because the whole point is she's getting more manic through the book. So I think it's kind of, when you're putting them two together, it makes sense. But you're kind of a bit confused as to where this is going as you're reading it, you know? Okay, and then finally, to end the challenge, I only managed to get like 30% into a book, but I finished that book today, and that is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I finally managed for it to work on my phone, so I finished reading that today. I've been back to work after being off for a while, so I had only managed to read like a chapter or two a day for the last few days, but I finished it today, and this one might have actually been my favourite one out of the 3. I did rate it a 5 stars, and I think I definitely know the love interest, Jacob, was my favourite out of the 3 because he was just lovable. He was a bit grumpy, not in the same way that Zaf was from the second book, but he's just very, I don't know how to like say it exactly. He's very like blunt, that's the word I'm trying to think of. He's very blunt, and he's just very forthcoming, and he's just like, he'll say what he thinks, and he doesn't really care, and I really like that about him. He is a character with autism, and as you're going through the book, you see Eve's discovery of, hang on a minute, I think I am also autistic. So it was nice. One thing I really liked separate, because I loved their love story, and I thought as a couple they were so well matched to each other, and I just thought they were just the cutest, and I loved them so much. But I think something I also loved that was separate from the love story was just Eve's self-discovery and self-acceptance, because I think she, you see at the beginning of the book, she's very down on herself. She doesn't believe in herself. Our parents are basically saying she's childish, but it's really just she's been struggling with something that she didn't realise was just she works differently, and she's kind of comes to accept that actually, you know what, there are things I'm good at and there are things that I'm passionate about. I just hadn't really found them, and I hadn't had that chance to explore that, so I really love that part as well. I think that's why it sets it apart from the other 2 books. I just thought, I really liked that, as well as it being about romantic love. There is that self-love element in there, and that self-acceptance, and I just really enjoyed that part specifically. So yeah, but also Jacob. If Charlie was sexy, Jacob, I don't even know what to describe him as, because man was sexy, If you know, you know. If you read it, you know. Again, for all 3 of those books, 10 out of 10 smut. And they were all very different smut scenes, which I quite enjoyed, because every couple is different, So I like how it wasn't just copy-paste they had this exact same kind of sex, because that's just not how people work. So that is all the 14 books that I have read over the last 2 months. So yeah, I'll probably do like another one next month for what I read in March. I'll have a book haul coming out probably next. I've bought more books. Would you believe it? So yeah, I'm really enjoying reading at the minute. I feel like I've probably got into the groove this month. I mean, I've had, how many 5-star reads? I think all of my 5-star reads were this month, because it was Book Lovers, Get a Life, 7 Husbands, and Act Your Age, and then a 4.5. So yeah, that's four 5 stars and a 4.5 and a 4. So really, oh, and 2 4s. So this month has been a really good month for finding books I love. So I feel like I'm really like in the groove of reading. Like I said, I'm gonna give myself a couple of days like break from reading, just so I don't get burnt out, and then we'll be back probably on the 1st, there and abouts, with something else. Yes, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And based on the books that I especially loved this last 2 months, let me know what you would recommend down in the comments for something to read in the future, because I'm always looking for more things now, as I can never buy too many books now. Okay, it's no thing. I think the last few times I've bought books, I have bought 7 or 8 at a time. So okay, I'm gonna go now. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.